Part 38. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 371. In the evening, Osman thus came back with Yingzi and Lao Juyi one after the other. Lao Ju followed Osman thus and Yingzi all the way. It is impossible to say that Osman thus did not notice it. He didn't hide his figure too much, so he followed closely. Osman thus and Yingzi were eating wontons at the small stall, and Lao Ju was also eating at the table next to him. Yingzi also got up and scooped a few wontons from his bowl into Lao Ju bowl. Lao Ju is very good to Yingzi. I often play with Yingzi and buy snacks for Yingzi copper plate. Yingzi naturally got close to Lao Ju. Osman thus never said anything about not letting Lao Ju follow him, but he didn't even look at Lao Ju. Lao Ju watched Osman thus and Yingzi enter the backyard, and was not sure what she meant, so she could only walk around in the yard. The next morning, Guyunjiao went to sit in the shop in front. Rokuro and Ogawa passed by the shop and went to school. Xiao Chuan shouted, "Sister, I went to school." Rokuro shouted, "Sister Jiao Xiao, I'm going to school." Guyunjiao was startled. In the past, Rokuro used to call her sister-in-law, but why did she suddenly call her sister-in-law today? Rokuro and Ogawa went out. Guyunjiao thought for a while, and then went to see a doctor. It was almost noon. Sanya ran out and said to Guyunjiao, "Big Sister Jiao Xiao, sister-in-law Osman thus said that there is fresh sea bass today, can you eat it after steaming it?" Guyunjiao beckoned Sanya to approach, and whispered in her ear, "Why did you suddenly call me Sister Jiao Jiao today?" She even changed her words. Sanya also whispered, "Mother said, Sister Jiao Jiao is going to get married. If we call you sister-in-law, you won't be able to marry." Guyunjiao felt that for the sake of Chen's consideration, she was really no different from her own mother. "No, it's better than my mother." She touched Sanya's head and smiled, "Did you just say perch?" "It's just steamed with chopped peppers, the same way as the steamed fish head." Sanya nodded and went to the back. The steamed sea bass with chopped peppers at noon was delicious, and Guyunjiao liked it very much. While eating, she found that the old nine was looking at sister-in-law Osman thus, who lowered her head and avoided his gaze. After everyone finished eating, Osman thus was washing dishes in the kitchen, and Lao Ju came in silently. Standing behind Osman thus, he suddenly said, "Osman thus, you should know what I mean." "What do you mean?" "If you agree, I will find someone to propose marriage." Osman thus shook her hand, and the bowl in her hand fell into the pot. She said in a panic, Don't ask someone to propose marriage." Lao Ju was stunned. Do you despise me?" Osman thus remained silent for a while. Lao Ju's heart was half cold. He turned around and walked out in despair, when Osmanthus' voice suddenly came from behind, I haven't made up my mind yet." Lao Juyi was overjoyed, and turned around quickly, "What else do you want to understand? You just say it, and I will follow you." Osman thus was silent again. Lao Ju glanced out the window. There was no one in the yard at the moment. He walked behind Osman thus and whispered, "If you come with me, I will do whatever you want me to do in the future. I'll give you all the wages, and I won't keep a single copper. I'd be happy if you can give me a baby, but it doesn't matter if you can't. Yingzi is just like my own daughter. When Yingzi grows up, let's hire a son-in-law for her, and don't let her get angry when she gets married. Would you mind?" Osman thus blushed when she heard the words of giving birth to a child. "What nonsense, I haven't agreed yet. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth." Author, Jinkui. Chapter 372. Lao Ju was anxious. "Then you say, what do you want me to do before you agree?" Osman thus twisted for a while. I have to ask Yingzi first. If she doesn't agree, then forget it." When Lao Ju heard it, "What do I think it is? Leave this to me, and I will tell Yingzi. Osman thus turned her head, tell her well, she has a big idea now. Laoju has a full chest, don't worry. He came out of the kitchen with a smile on his face, and walked around the yard twice without seeing Yingzi, guessing that she went to the backyard to take a nap. Laoju didn't want to go to the backyard, so he went into the west wing to grind medicine and sway his energy. In the afternoon, Laoju finally saw Yingzi and Sanya coming out of the backyard. Laoju waved to Yingzi, Yingzi, come here. Yingzi walked into the west wing and turned to look at Laoju, Uncle Laoju, what's the matter? Laoju squatted down and looked at Yingzi, you said, is Laoju uncle treating you well? Yingzi nodded, okay, I like to play with you. Laoju said happily, in the future, will I play with you every day? Yingzi said inexplicably, you play with me every day now. Laoju whispered, it's different. In the future, I will live with your mother and you and take care of you. Can you agree? Yingzi thought for a while and blinked, as if she didn't quite understand what Laoju meant. Laoju felt that it was too obscure to talk to a child, so he simply said, Yingzi, I want to marry your mother, and I will be your father in the future, okay. Yingzi's face changed suddenly, I don't want it, I have a father. After she finished speaking, she ran out of the room. Laoju ran out with her, and saw her running to the kitchen, thinking that she was looking for Osman thus. He chased after him, and when he walked outside the kitchen, he heard Yingzi crying, I don't want it, I have a father, I don't want someone else to be my father. Laoju felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured into his heart. He didn't expect Yingzi to have such a big reaction. Yingzi is usually close to him, and the wontons that Yingzi scooped for him today are all fake. Maybe she can only accept an old ninth uncle, not a stepfather. Laoju stood outside the kitchen for a while, then silently went back to the west wing. During dinner in the evening, Gu Yunjiao found that Laoju seemed to have hit an eggplant with frost, and her whole body was dizzy, completely losing her usual spirit. And Osman thus lowered her head to eat, and she knew she was in a bad mood at first glance. Gu Yunjiao and Chen Shi exchanged a few glances, and both of them understood what the other meant. What happened to the two? Chen Shi blinked again. Gu Yunjiao understood, it meant I'll ask Osman thus later. After eating, Gu Yunjiao went back to the backyard. She walked over to the upper room and waved to Mrs. Tian, who was busy. Gu Yunjiao said, how is she today? Mrs. Tian said, it's fine, I didn't cry, I was just in a daze. I just ate and I'm sitting there. Gu Yunjiao nodded and left. Not long after, Mrs. Chen came from the front yard, and she called Gu Yunjiao into the room mysteriously, guess what, Laoju wants to find someone to propose to Osman thus, but Yingzi doesn't agree. Gu Yunjiao said strangely, didn't Yingzi usually like Laoju? How could that be? Chen Shi shook his head, who can guess the child's mind? Hey, in fact, except for the fact that Laoju is a little older, the rest are not bad. Osman thus orphans and widows, it is good to have someone to rely on. Don't look at her now, she's following us, and you don't need to be bullied. She used to be in the village, and she was bullied a lot. Once there was a heavy rain, the ridge of her family was dug up, and all the water was poured into her field. It's not just this one. There are many things going on. In short, if there is no man in the village to stand up as a householder, then there will only be a chance of being bullied. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 373. Gu Yunjiao was still thinking, why doesn't Yingzi agree? I'm going to ask her. She came out of Chen's house and saw Sanya and Yingzi kicking shuttlecock in the yard. There is a copper coin under the shuttlecock and a few pheasant feathers on it, but it is very beautiful. Gu Yunjiao beckoned to Yingzi. Yingzi ran over and looked at her. Gu Yunjiao said softly, "Let me ask you, don't you like Laoju?" Yingzi said, "I like it." Gu Yunjiao asked again, "Do you know what marriage means?" Yingzi was actually a little shy. "I know, the last time the Zhang family's eldest brother and sister-in-law Peach Blossom got married, and I went to have a drink." "Then are you willing to marry your mother?" Gu Yunjiao looked at Yingzi and asked. Yingzi suddenly changed her face. "I don't want my mother to marry." Gu Yunjiao asked patiently, "Why?" Yingzi looked at her and pointed to the room. "Sister Jiao, don't you also let your mother marry?" Gu Yunjiao was speechless for a while. "Brother Xiao Chuan said that when Aunt Li is married, you don't want you anymore. I'm also afraid that my mother won't want me when she gets married." Gu Yunjiao explained to Yingzi patiently, "Your mother is different from mine. Your mother is married and will want you. If your mother marries Laoju, and your mother will love you in the future. Isn't that bad?" Yingzi blinked innocently. "Now Laoju and Niang love me too." Gu Yunjiao thought to herself, "Why can't I explain it to you?" She racked her brains again to think of a remark. "Do you remember when you and your mother were bullied in the countryside before?" Yingzi nodded, his face darkened. Gu Yunjiao said, "If Laoju and your mother get married, then you will go back to the countryside, and no one will dare to bully you again." Yingzi hesitated. "I don't want to go back to the countryside." Gu Yunjiao coughed lightly. This child, why can't he grasp the point? It's tiring talking to her. She simply said, "Just tell me, in the future, your mother and Laoju will sleep in the same room, and you will sleep in the ear room like Sanya. Would you like to?" Yingzi bit her finger and thought about it, then nodded slowly. She is willing to sleep in the ear room by herself. She is envious of Sanya's house. Sanya's little flower quilt is so beautiful. Also, there is toilet water in Sanya's house. It's really fragrant, and she wants it too. Gu Yunjiao asked again, "Then why did you say that to Laoju today?" Yingzi suddenly felt wronged again. "He said he wants to be my father, so how can I do it? I have a father. Although my father is dead, I still have a father." Gu Yunjiao finally understood what the problem was. Yingzi did not allow anyone to take her place as her father. Laoju can only be Jubo. She stood up and led Yingzi to the front yard. In the kitchen, Osman thus is still cleaning up. Laoju silently picked up the heavy iron pot and poured water. Meeting Gu Yunjiao and Yingzi head on, Laoju forced a smile. Gu Yunjiao waited for Laoju to finish pouring the water, followed behind him into the kitchen, and said with a smile, "Don't be upset, Yingzi agrees." The iron pot in Laoju's hand almost fell. He hurriedly put the iron pot away, and said in surprise, "Really?" Yingzi nodded at him. "In the future, you and your mother will sleep in the same room, and I will sleep in the ear room by myself." Gu Yunjiao supported her forehead. "This child, she said so many things, why did she choose this one?" Osmantha's face turned red, and said angrily, "Yingzi, what nonsense are you talking about?" Laoju's whole body was numb. He glanced at Osman thus, and couldn't help smirking. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 374. Yingzi looked at her mother and then at Laoju. "Can I want a quilt like Sanya?" Laoju picked up Sanya. Yes, I'll buy it for you tomorrow." Yingzi said again, "I also want a bottle of toilet water to keep in the house, it's fragrant." Without waiting for Laoju to speak, Gu Yunjiao hurriedly said, "When Laoju and your mother get married, you move the house, and Sister Jiao will give you a bottle, which will be congratulations on your new house." A bottle of toilet water for 2 taels of silver. Laoju didn't know if he had saved 20 taels of silver. Yingzi was very happy. "Really, thank you Sister Jiao." She turned to look at her mother. "Mother, when will you get married?" I want to move the house quickly. Gu Yunjiao finally couldn't help laughing. A bottle of toilet water sold her mother, this girl is really promising. Osman thus blushed, you girl, why are you talking nonsense? Lao Juyi's eyes were glued to Osman thus, as if he had something to say, but it hindered Gu Yunjiao and Yingzi, and couldn't say it. Gu Yunjiao coughed lightly, gave Lao Ju a wink, and told him to go out. When the two were outside, Gu Yunjiao whispered, in the future, don't say that you want to be Yingzi's father. Even if she refuses to call you father, don't mind. She can't forget her father in her heart. Lao Ju shook his head hurriedly, I don't mind. Whatever she calls me Lao Juduchan. He looked back at the kitchen window and saw the sweet-scented Osman thus smiling and talking to Yingzi, and he felt like drinking honey. He suddenly said solemnly to Gu Yunjiao, my boss, my ninth has been in a daze for the first half of my life. If I hadn't met my boss, I would still be a muddy mess, and maybe one day I'd drink to death. I never dreamed that I would have a day in my life to have a family and marry such a good daughter-in-law as Osman thus. His voice was not small, and Osman thus blushed again when she heard it in the kitchen, thinking, who is your daughter-in-law, not married yet? Lao Ju bowed his hands to Gu Yunjiao, the owner is my noble person, and the owner's great kindness to me, Lao Ju's repayment is not an exaggeration. I don't have any other skills. From now on, I will do something for the owner for the rest of my life. Gu Yunjiao smiled and said, I'm also planning to tell you that I won't be looking for a pharmacy master in the future. Who knows what people will be recruited or ghosts. In the future, all the pharmaceutical matters will be handed over to you. You study hard, and take a tie with you by the way. When your skills are finished, I will increase your wages. Lao Ju became more and more grateful. Gu Yunjiao smiled and went to the backyard. Lao Ju stepped into the kitchen and said to Osman thus, if you agree, I will ask someone to propose a marriage tomorrow, and then see the nearest date, and we will get married. Osman thus blushed, what are you anxious about? Lao Ju glanced at Yingzi and said vaguely, I can't be in a hurry, I've been a bachelor for so many years. Osman thus glared at him, Lao Ju touched the back of his head and smirked, not daring to speak any more. Gu Yunjiao returned to the backyard in a good mood, went to Chen's room first, and reported the good news to her. Chen Shi was even happier than Gu Yunjiao, she folded her hands together and recited the Buddha, Osman thus, this hard-working person, is finally here. She took Gu Yunjiao's hand, girl, you have done a good deed, and you will be rewarded in the future. Gu Yunjiao smiled at Chen Shi and went out. She went out and passed Li's window. She glanced in. There was no light in the room, and it was dark. It was estimated that Li was still lying on the bed. Gu Yunjiao went back to the house and closed the door, and went into the medicine store to start making toilet water. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 375. Recently, she is still collecting flowers every day. The flowers that Gu Yunjiao receives are put in the medicine store, and they will not wither anyway. After being busy for a long time, after preparing a lot of toilet water, Gu Yunjiao came out of it. The candle in the room was still burning when she came out. Gu Yunjiao opened the door and went out, planning to go to the toilet to sleep. She passed under Li's window and suddenly heard her voice, I beg you, can you please help me? Gu Yunjiao stopped. I heard Mrs. Tian say, no way, if I let you go tomorrow, Dr. Gu won't let me go. Li continued, what are you afraid of? You took my golden bracelet and ran away. Such a big golden bracelet is enough for you to spend a long time. Mrs. Tian's voice was a little frightened, Madam, please don't hurt me. I'm a servant. If I take your golden bracelet and run away, I'll be beaten to death if I catch it. Li Shi said anxiously, why are you so stupid, run away, who can catch you? Mrs. Tian said, I don't have a household registration, so I can't do a road guide. Where can I run? Madam, don't think about it. It's so late, so hurry up and sleep. Mrs. Lee cried again, can you have pity on me? I really can't go back, I can't live without Ching Lang. Madame Tian just said, Madam, don't make it difficult for me. When Gu Yunjiao heard this, she sneered a few times in her heart, and then she had to sigh that Mrs. Tian was a sensible person. Otherwise, if you encounter a greedy person, you will definitely be hooked when you hear the gold. Gu Yunjiao suddenly stepped up and walked under Li's window. The Li family in the room may have heard the sound, let out a terrified low cry, and then stopped moving. The next day, Gu Yunjiao was seeing a doctor in front of her when suddenly a woman in a silk shirt came in from the door. Came in and smiled and looked around. Ahu asked her, are you seeing a doctor? Do you have an appointment? The old woman smiled at him, I don't see a doctor, I'm here to propose a marriage. Gu Yunjiao thought that Lao Ju's movements were really fast, so she brought the matchmaker. She said to Ahu, take her in. Sister-in-law Usman thus should be in the kitchen at this time. Ahu took the matchmaker to the backyard. After a while, Ahu brought the matchmaker out again, and said to Gu Yunjiao with an embarrassed face, it's the matchmaker hired by Bossu next door. Gu Yunjiao's face darkened, she didn't say anything, she just waved at Ahu. Ahu quickly pulled the matchmaker out. Naturally, no one told Mrs. Li about the matchmaker who came to propose marriage. In the evening, Zhang Yuzi brought Du Ruo back. Gu Yunjiao asked strangely, why are you back? Zhang Yuzi said as a matter of course, don't you want to go back to Chunlin County tomorrow? I have something to go back to the county, so I happen to go with you. In the early morning of the next day, the genius was bright, and before the city gates were opened, 2 carriages stopped at the entrance of Rengzintang. Mrs. Tian pulled Mrs. Li out of the house. Mrs. Li seemed to be on the execution ground. Li cried and looked at the satin shop next door, but the door had not been opened yet. Mrs. Tian dragged her and managed to get her into the car. Gu Yunjiao was impatient to listen to her crying, and told Mrs. Tian to take good care of her, so she and Gu Chuan got into another car. Du Ruo drove the car, Zhang Yuzi sat outside the carriage, and Lin Shuo rode with them. Ahu stayed to watch the house. The 2 carriages walked for about a quarter of an hour, and when they approached the city gate just opened. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 376. 2 carriages went out of the city one after the other. Gu Yunjiao lifted both the curtains that were blocking the front and the curtains of the window, and the early morning wind blew in, bringing a burst of coolness. This carriage was the one that Ahu bought on the road at the time. Later, Gu Yunjiao asked someone to remodel it and added shock-absorbing springs, which made it much more comfortable to sit on. She looked at Zhang Yuzi's back outside, San Lang, you better sit in, your legs are still not fully grown now, so Bumpy can't do it. Zhang Yuzi turned around with a smile on his face, agreed, and quickly moved into the car and sat down. The seats in the carriage are very wide, with concave shapes on 3 sides, and thick cushions are laid on them. Gu Yunjiao was sitting in the corner at this time, Gu Chuan was sitting in the middle, and Zhang Yuzi was sitting on the side seat. Gu Chuan leaned over to Zhang Yuzi, Brother Saburo, it's so boring to ride in the car. Would you mind telling me a story? Zhang Yuzi told Xiao Chuan a story, and Gu Yunjiao listened beside him. Talking and talking, Gu Chuan fell asleep amid the turbulence of the carriage. He woke up earlier than usual today, and he still hadn't slept enough. Zhang Yuzi saw that he was curled up to sleep, and carefully carried him to his side. The side was long enough, and it was naturally more comfortable to lie down. He took advantage of the situation and sat next to Gu Yunjiao. Then Zhang Yuzi had a very natural attitude and chatted with her. When I return from Chunlin County, I may go to the capital with King Kong. Gu Yunjiao asked curiously, what are you going to do? On the 60th birthday of the emperor, concubine Yun, King Kong, and concubine Wang will all go to Beijing to pay their respects. Zhang Yuzi paused. I followed King Kong to visit a few people. Gu Yunjiao probably understood, which meant that King Kong had to completely pull Zhang Yuzi into his small group. Gu Yunjiao didn't understand what was going on in the courtroom, she just nodded. Zhang Yuzi then smiled and said, Kong Kong is worried now, but he is ready for the emperor's birthday. However, everyone in the world knows that the emperor loves food, and now King Kong is worried that he has not collected any decent recipes for the emperor. Gu Yunjiao's expression changed. Recipe. Because her family has a long history, there are many ancient books in her family. When she was a child, she often flipped through the books randomly, but she had read a few cookbooks. At that time, she was very impressed by the extremely complicated methods in the books, so she still remembers a lot. Zhang Yuyi looked at her expression. Why, do you have any fresh recipes? Gu Yunjiao thought for a while. I don't know if it's fresh or not, I've never eaten it, but I can remember a few. Zhang Yuzi's eyes lit up. Come and listen. Gu Yunjiao said, there is a very deep impression. It is a soup called wuxiang, which uses 99 to 81 kinds of ingredients. Boil 9 pots of soup with different combinations of ingredients, and finally boil the 9 pots of soup into a bowl of thick soup. I then used minced pork and minced chicken to absorb the turbidity in the thick soup twice, and finally there was a bowl of soup that was clear as water. This bowl of soup has no color or appearance, but it brings together 99 kinds of delicious flavors. That's why it's called wuxiang. The first pot of soup is called golden soup, and I use abalone, sea cucumber, fish lip, fish maw, deer tendons, quail eggs, pig trotters. The second pot is the milk soup, which uses fresh fish and mutton to make a milky white soup. The third pot is clear soup, which is the clear soup with boiled water and cabbage. The clear soup is made from chicken, duck, elbow, ribs, ham, scallop, and pork skin. The fourth pot. Zhang Yuyi was amazed that Gu Yunjiao knew so much. While listening attentively, he remembered all the ingredients and steps she said. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jin Kui. Chapter 377. After saying a recipe, Gu Yunjiao felt like she was about to walk 10 miles away. After listening to this recipe, Zhang Yuzi shook his head slowly. If this recipe is offered to King Kong, the emperor will definitely be delighted. Just to make this soup, I don't know how much money it will cost. What's good on the top, what's good on the bottom? Once this soup is praised by the emperor, it will surely be popular in the whole capital. Zhang Yuzi didn't go on, just shook his head. Gu Yunjiao said, I don't get tired of eating fine and delicate. The royal chefs spend their time cooking for the emperor every day. The emperor has never eaten anything. If a dish wants to be appreciated by the emperor, it must be extremely extravagant, delicate, and novel. Zhang Yuzi looked at Gu Yunjiao sideways. Yes, we don't care whether the nobles are extravagant or not. Any other recipes you remember? Gu Yunjiao thought for a while. There is another dish called chicken marrow shoots. This is a dish that the old lady likes to eat in A Dream of Red Mansions. I don't know if it is delicious or not, but the method is very noble. This is quite simple. Take out the bone marrow from the chicken thigh bones of 100 black bone chickens, stuff them into the jade finger bamboo shoots, and simmer them in chicken juice. Finally, cut into thin slices and put them on a plate. Gu Yunjiao said several more recipes in one breath. Zhang Yuzi said, which one of these dishes do you want to eat the most? Gu Yunjiao laughed. One day I have a chance, I'll try that combination of 8 treasures, 4 treasures, 3 fresh dragons and phoenixes. Zhang Yuzi secretly remembered it in his heart, and the two talked about something else. There are people chatting along the way, and the time is easy to pass. Around noon on the 4th day, we arrived at Chunlin County. The county seat is still the same, the carriage is parked in front of the only restaurant in the county seat. There is no gathering today, and the restaurant is also deserted. The entire county is only home to a few thousand people, and this situation is quite normal. Gu Yunjiao and the others went in and sat in the lobby, ordered a table of dishes, and sat there to eat. When they were about to eat, Gu Yunjiao saw shopkeeper Wang and a middle-aged man coming in. Shopkeeper Wang didn't notice this table, and sat down with the middle-aged man at the next table. Gu Yunjiao stood up and went over to say hello, Uncle Wang. Shopkeeper Wang turned his head, took a look at Gu Yunjiao, and got up hurriedly, little Dr. Gu. Long time no see. He smiled and said, sit down, last time I said I was going to open a pharmacy in Xiangcheng, how is it now? Gu Yunjiao sat down, Uncle Tuo's blessing, it's been a few months since the pharmacy in Xiangcheng opened. Shopkeeper Wang stroked his beard and smiled, the little girl is not bad, but I didn't expect that she is really capable. He suddenly remembered something, and asked suspiciously, wait, my nephew went to Xiangcheng to buy medicinal materials last time, and I heard that there was a newly opened Rengzentang, and there was a Dr. Gu who was very skilled in medicine, wouldn't it be? Gu Yunjiao said embarrassedly, I opened Rengzentang. What? Shopkeeper Wang almost lost his eyes. When his nephew came back, he told him about the grand occasion of Rengzentang, and said that all the people waiting to see a doctor at the door were expelled all the way. At that time, he was still very envious. When he heard his nephew say that Dr. Gu was a little girl of 14 or 15 years old, he also thought about it, wouldn't it be Gu Yunjiao? However, he quickly denied his idea. He didn't think the little girl had such great ability. Shopkeeper Wang cupped his hands again and again, I'm sorry, I really didn't expect the famous Dr. Gu in Xiangcheng to be you. Gu Yunjiao was embarrassed, Uncle Wang, if you go to Xiangcheng next time, you can visit me when you have time. Shopkeeper Wang nodded, I must go. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 378. After dinner, Gu Yunjiao and shopkeeper Wang said goodbye, and the carriage went to the countryside town. The car was parked in front of Li's mother's house, and Li was sitting in the car again and began to cry. Gu Chuan knocked on the door, and Mrs. Tian managed to get Li's down after dragging and hugging her. Zhang Yuzi and Lin Shuo looked at each other. Zhang Yuzi said, I see there is a tea house over there, let's sit there and have a cup of tea. Gu Yunjiao's family affairs, it is not good for them to get involved. The two took Du Ruo away and drove the carriage over. Gu Chuan knocked for a while before the courtyard door opened. Uncle's 19-year-old son was stunned when he saw Gu Chuan and Gu Yunjiao, and then his face changed when he saw Li Shi who was crying. He didn't say to invite people in, but turned his head and shouted into the house, Father, Uncle, my little aunt is back. What? With this sound, the uncles, aunts, and uncles came out of the house. They all stood at the door and looked at the group of people, their faces extremely ugly. Gu Yunjiao also admired Li. She even got mixed up to the point where anyone who saw her was like hiding from the plague. She stepped forward and called out with a smile, Uncle and Aunt, second uncle and second aunt. The uncle didn't come either, so he stood at the door of the house and said reluctantly, Yunjiao, is there something wrong? Gu Yunjiao nodded, I have something to ask the eldest uncle and the second uncle. The expressions of the eldest aunt and the second aunt changed. One pinched her husband's waist and the other gently kicked her husband. Gu Yunjiao took another step forward, Uncle, why don't we go into the room and sit down and talk? With an embarrassed look on his uncle's face, he and second uncle looked at each other. Gu Yunjiao sighed in her heart, it seems that it is rare to enter this door today. Fortunately, she was already prepared, she suddenly reached out and touched the hair on her temples. With this movement, her wide sleeve slid down, revealing a section of pure white wrist with a golden bracelet studded with pearls. Auntie saw it first, and her eyes brightened. The second aunt also saw it. She was stunned for a moment, and then ran out with a smile on her face. Yun Xiao, hurry up and sit in the room. Gu Yunjiao slowly lowered her arms and said with a smile, I've disturbed auntie. Not to be outdone, the aunt hurried out and glanced at Gu Yunjiao's wrist first, but unfortunately her sleeves were down, so she couldn't see anything. The two aunts, one on the left and one on the right, affectionately pulled Gu Yunjiao into the house. The uncle came over and took Gu Chuan, and no one cared about the Li family behind. Behind Mrs. Tian, Mrs. Li, who was crying and crying, was also pulled into the house. Grandpa and Grandma also came out of the house, and Gu Yunjiao first saluted the two old people. Li Shi then threw herself into her mother's arms and cried with all kinds of grievances. Grandma pulled her to sit down while shouting her heart and soul. Gu Yunjiao thought to herself that if her grandmother hadn't spoiled Mrs. Li like that, Mrs. Li would not have developed a selfish temperament. She didn't care about Li's cry, and said to herself, I don't hide from my aunt and uncle, if I really had no choice, I wouldn't be here today. Then he talked about the matter between Mrs. Li and Bosu without any ambiguity. The grandmother opened her mouth wide, and the corners of the two aunts' mouths twitched. Gu Yunjiao's face was full of helplessness. Auntie, I can't do anything about it. The Li family is also a clean family. How can a girl be a concubine? Besides, Xiao Chuan and I can't afford to lose this person. If I don't bring her back, I don't know what will happen. Auntie hurriedly said, then what do you mean by bringing her back? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth. Author, Jinkui. Chapter 379. Gu Yunjiao said in a deep voice, after all, there are still grandfathers and grandmothers here. I think it's better for her to live in her parents' house. Seeing that the two aunts were about to open their mouths to object, she quickly said, of course, I will pay for her living expenses. The two aunts quickly turned into thoughtful expressions. Gu Yunjiao then asked, Uncle, now this family has more than 20 acres of land, can they make a lot of money a year? The uncle shook his head hurriedly, where, after paying the government's taxes, and then scraping the family's shoes, at most 3 or 4 taels of silver will be left over a year. Gu Yunjiao smiled, then I give 5 taels of silver a year as her living expenses, what does uncle think? She learned a truth from Zhao Lijhan last time, don't reveal your bottom line too early, otherwise it will only make people gain an inch. Uncle's eyes lit up, 5 taels of silver was not a small amount, even if he ate a pound of meat a day, it was enough for more than a year. Just as he was about to agree, the aunt coughed lightly, and the uncle remained silent. Auntie glanced at the silk and satin clothes on Li's body and said calmly, Yun Xiao, you don't know, this year's harvest is not good, this family is very difficult, 5 taels of silver, it is difficult to support one person. Some. The second aunt answered, besides, your mother doesn't know how to do things. The kitchen was burned down last time, and the family spent 2 taels of silver to get someone to repair it. In the future, who knows what will happen next? Gu Yunjiao nodded and said sincerely, I didn't think enough about it. What do the two aunts think is a good amount of money for living expenses a year? The second aunt said quickly, then why don't you have 10 taels of silver? The first aunt glared at the second aunt, how come 10 taels of silver are enough? Not to mention 20 taels. Speaking of this number, the aunt's heart trembled a little, Would it be too much to say? It stands to reason that Mr. Lee spends almost 2 taels a year on food. But thinking about the satin clothes on Lee's body, and the gold bracelet on Gu Yunjiao's wrist, the aunt felt that she didn't say much. Gu Yunjiao lowered her eyes. This aunt was too cruel, and she touched her bottom line at once. There was an embarrassed look on her face. Auntie, it's not that I can't get 20 taels of silver, but, no matter what, she can't eat 20 taels of silver a year. The aunt hurriedly said, "Oh, Yunjiao, look at your mother, the silk and satin clothes on her body must not be bad. The chicken, duck, and fish are expensive to death. 20 taels is really not much." Gu Yunjiao was silent for a while, until the hearts of the two aunts were lifted, and then she nodded slowly. 20 taels then, but the clothes she makes for the seasons are also included. The two aunts were in ecstasy at the moment. For 20 taels a year, a family could be divided into 10 taels. 12. This is not a small sum of money, and as long as the Li family is here, they can take this money every year. The two aunts became enthusiastic, and the eldest aunt said, "Yunjiao, you haven't eaten yet, or I'll go get you a bowl of egg noodles." Gu Yunjiao shook her head, "I've already eaten. However, I have to remind my uncle and aunt to pay attention, I'm worried." The second aunt hurriedly said, "Don't worry, your mother is here to keep her food well and dress well. We won't let her work or run around." Gu Yunjiao smiled, "Then I can rest assured. The Prime Minister seduced me to give birth." Author, Jinkui. Chapter 380. Uncle's eyes flashed. "Yunjiao, I heard people say that you and your in-laws have gone to Xiangcheng now. What are you doing for a living? Uncle sees that you have made a fortune like this." Everyone in the room was staring at Gu Yunjiao. Gu Yunjiao smiled, "What can I do? It's not to see a doctor." Hearing this, the uncle shook his head. "I thought you had some way of making money," and he said, "You help your cousins, alas. This is not a financial path for people to see a doctor." Gu Yunjiao just smiled. At this time, Mrs. Li suddenly turned her head from her mother's arms, glanced at Gu Yunjiao resentfully, and then said to the two aunts, "Are you stupid? Do you know how much money she earns a day? Did you leave? It's 200 taels a year, and she can get it." Gu Yunjiao laughed heartily. Gu Chuan's lungs were about to explode next to him. "What nonsense are you talking about? Uncle didn't quite believe it. Xiangqing's money is so easy to earn? Can people earn so much money from seeing a doctor?" The second uncle stared at Gu Yunjiao. Gu Yunjiao lowered her head at this moment, and said something in Gu Chuan's ear. Gu Chuan ran out quickly. In the room full of people, no one cared about a child, they only cared about Gu Yunjiao. Li continued, "You don't know, she is amazing now. The illness of the empress in the palace was cured, and the empress rewarded countless gold and silver jewels." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the room suffocated. Li continued, "Nowadays, there are too many people looking for her to see a doctor, and her pharmacy earns dozens of taels a day at least. Hundreds of taels in 10 days, thousands of taels in 100 days, you say, what does 200 taels mean to her?" Everyone was stunned when they heard Li's words. A few hundred taels and a few thousand taels were numbers they couldn't even imagine. The uncle said, "Then Yunjiao has really made a fortune now. She even got close to a noble person." Li snorted. Gu Yunjiao only looked at Li Shi coldly. The eldest uncle suddenly smiled flatteringly. "Yunjiao, look, your eldest cousin is also smart, can you be a buddy at your pharmacy? Uncle can also go to your place and help with running errands or something." Gu Yunjiao smiled, "I'm afraid that won't work, I have no shortage of errands there, and besides, the pharmacist must be literate, recognize medicine, plan dishes, use scorpions, and cut medicine." The uncle said, "I can't learn it." Gu Yunjiao stood up. "Two uncles and aunts, there are a lot of things in my shop, so I'll stay soon. She took out 20 taels of silver from her bosom. This silver is her living expenses for 1 year. When this time next year, I will come and give you the living expenses for next year. The ant looked at the silver in Gu Yunjiao's hand and snorted, "Niece, you're not being kind. Your house is piled high with gold, silver, and jewelry, so that's all you need? You think you're sending beggars?" Gu Yunjiao laughed, "My family is indeed piled up with gold and silver jewelry, but what does it have to do with you? My surname is Gu, not Li." Everyone was silent. According to the custom at this time, Gu Yunjiao's money really had nothing to do with them. Even if the Gu family is dead, the Li family has no right to inherit. Gu Yunjiao glanced at the Li family. "Besides, your Li family raised such a shameless girl, and I even paid for her. I have done my best to be benevolent and righteous." The grandmother holding Li's was unhappy at first. "How can you say that to your mother?